All right, everyone. Hello. It's Bob again, and this time I am going to be talking about the Maxx number two. I did the Maxx number one not too long ago, um, and I did love this book. This was one of the better ones from Image when it came out. It seemed that Sam Keith definitely had something to say, and also was just a big fan of the artwork and the characters, the idea. There was a lot of originality in this that you weren't seeing from a lot of the other Image books. I love the other Image books and everything. It's just that when you have Wildcats and Cyberforce, they were just X-Men derivatives. Same thing with Youngblood and everything, or Youngblood was Teen Titan derivatives, whatever. We were getting something completely different here with the Maxx, and after doing the first comic, you kind of realize that this book is like extremely dark. Not just dark in the way that it's drawn, but dark in storyline. And I knew that at the time that I read it, but I don't know. It was the '90s, so in the '90s, things were going extra dark. We had already gone through an era of like '60s Batman type stuff, and Disney stuff and all of this. We'd already done that, and nobody was really like trying to push the envelope. And then suddenly, the '90s came around, and that's where it did start in the '80s with things like Frank Miller's Dark Knight, things like that, Alan Moore's Watchmen and such. They were pushing the envelope and going dark, and then it was just getting more and more extreme as it went on into the '90s. And then it was things like all superheroes just kill. It's extremely bloody. Everything's just got rape and everything in it. The first book here had rape, and they talk about it again in here. So I do want to do like a trigger warning here in case this is going to upset someone who's watching the video. So anyway, the Maxx number two. All right, and we're starting here with Julie in her kitchen. And apparently she's been dieting, and she is currently weighing herself to find out that she somehow gained 5 pounds, okay? So she decides to look in the fridge to see if she can find something that won't be fattening, and we see one of the Izzes in here. Then a bunch of the Izzes here snatch her up. I don't know, the way that this goes down, she's shocked, all these Izzes come out and grab her. And then I guess take her down to the ground. It's just kind of, I don't know, it's kind of weird to me because at first when I read it, I'm thinking like, she looks a little surprised, of course, that there was this weird, creature in her fridge or whatever, but it's not like a look of terror or anything like that. And it kind of looks like they just maybe pile on her like a bunch of puppies would, and then she just like falls down to the ground or whatever. I don't know. And then we cut over here to a gas station, and we're getting this narration from this guy, right? This nameless guy who is just talking about how nothing ever happens to him. He's the most boring person in the world, and he just kind of wishes something would happen. And he does talk about Glory from the first issue, which is what I talked about earlier. So again, trigger warning. This is where she was raped by the bad guy. And he's talking about how he went to visit her in the hospital. And I have to say, this guy's very, I don't know, weird about it. Like he's affected but not affected. He's affected in the wrong way. I don't know. It's just kind of weird. He says that he went to see her at the hospital a couple of days ago. That was kind of gross. She's all bandaged up and can't talk good. And there's these burn marks on her wrist. Made me feel bad. She said they think they can save her fingers. My dad says it happened because she's a tramp, but I don't think so. Things just happen is all, but not to me. Again, this guy's kind of like, he's talking about how things happen. Nothing ever happens to him. And it almost sounds like he's a little jealous that this situation didn't happen to him. To me, I feel like you could say that it did. Like, he knows this person. He's experiencing this through her. He visited her in a hospital, so there's a thing that, that took place to him as well, but okay. But he starts noticing, that there's a bunch of these grandmas that look just like his grandma, by the way, all in the back of this station wagon, and they all look the same. And then he's noticing a black tarp that starts coming down over the edges of this gas station, right? Like the gas station has this like canopy here with light shining down so people can see the pumps, right? And then the tarp is like coming down completely over, and he's just like, I won't be able to see to pump any gas in here. What if I tugged on this really hard and it kind of whooshes up like a window shade, right? Like one of the spring-loaded kind. And you can see here that it's kind of going through a little hole in the top of this canopy because the Maxx and this guy had just fallen through. His name's Mr. Gone. Had just fallen through the canopy, and it's pulling his cape. And the guy who's witnessing this is like, oh, I get it. It's that guy's cape, right? And Mr. Gone and the Maxx are fighting, and Mr. Gone is calling Maxx Briar Lappin. Okay, I never looked into it before, and it's been a very long time since I've read these, but I should look it up because I think it meant something like a rabbit or something like that. I'm not sure, but I'll have to look into it. But Mr. Gone is talking about how Julie's the one that pulls his strings or whatever, and the one that he really wants because the Maxx here is nothing. And this guy is talking about how neat it is to see these guys fighting on the top of his car. Mr. Gone pulls out a gun, and the Maxx is like, hey, put that down. And apparently, Mr. Gone had noticed that there was a woman in the back seat of this guy's car, and he breaks through the back window and grabs hold of her and says, now surrender, or I'm going to take this young Chippy here and add it to my score. All right? Meaning he's going to kill her. But before that happens, the Maxx does it. The Maxx takes her head and crushes it down into the car or whatever. And Mr. Gone is sitting there shocked, and he's like, my hostage. You killed my hostage. And then he just kind of keeps going on about it like he's completely surprised. You killed my hostage. You killed my hostage. You killed. And he shoots the Maxx. And the Maxx looks down, and he's like, ouchie. And Mr. Gaughan's like, never do that again. And then Mr. Gaughan gets in the car, drives away, saying, brother, nothing's easy. And then this nameless guy here, he just wanders over, and he's like, do you want me to call an ambulance or something? And the Maxx is just sitting there, and he's like, that was really smart how you realized that was my CPR dummy, huh? You did realize that was my CPR practice dummy, right, mister? Right? And the Maxx is like, a dummy? Yeah, right. So apparently the Maxx did not know it was a dummy. And had that been a real woman, the Maxx would have killed her. So, I'm not sure I had remembered that before. I know that the Maxx is supposed to be, I think, Julie's protector. But it does keep coming off that he's like supposed to be a superhero of some kind in this world. So I guess we're going to learn more about that as we go on. But just as he's, realizing that, that was a dummy and not a real girl, he gets attacked by an Iz, right? And then a bunch of Iz's are jumping out. But what's wild is that this guy is seeing his grandmother attacking the Maxx and biting him all over. Okay? So the Maxx runs, and he runs into a dumpster, and he's being bit all over by the Iz here, and he's talking about how bad the pain is, and he just starts to black out, okay? And then Mr. Gone appears again, and he's like, I've got a date with an angel, he's singing, and he takes one of the Iz's, and he clamps it down on the dumpster lid in order to trap the Maxx in there while he's also getting bitten by the other Iz's, okay? And then he puts a cardboard box over the Iz, because he's like, after all, we don't want the local scene grannies clipped the trash bins by their teeth, right? Okay. So obviously, the real world or whatever is seeing them as old women, whereas he and the Maxx are seeing them as the Iz's. Okay. Again, I think this will all be explained, further down the road. All right. So it says escaped. It feels good to run and leap again. Okay. So the Maxx is again in the outback, and he had dropped through the roof of this hut, if we remember from the last issue. because he's talking about how he's a king, but in order to be a king, he must have a jungle queen, which is this woman that looked like Julie and the cat queen, I believe it was, in the first book. But he says, there she is, but she's changed. As we can see here, she's looking just much darker. She's saying, bad doll. This is a bad doll. It keeps telling me things I don't want to hear, right? And this is the doll right here. And she just keeps going, this bad doll doesn't shut up. I'm going to brush its hair right out, okay? And the Maxx here is just confused as to what's going on. It's also weird to me that we have this, like, jungle thing here and set in the outback, and she has, like, a standard comb with this, this weird doll. So that's wild. But we cut to, I guess, the real world again, where Mr. Gone seems like he's talking to Julie, okay, while he's taking a bubble bath. And he's just going on about all the horrible things he's done and how, good life is because of it. So he's just one of those guys, I feel like Tom McFarlane does it a lot with his bad guys too. The way that they enjoy being evil and they just talk about how good life is and all of this because they just did all this bad stuff. This guy's doing the same thing here. And he starts to explain the ises. And he's like, do you know that the humans, they appear as whatever you dress them as? Which is why he took over a costume warehouse that he's currently in. So that way he can disguise the ises in any way that he wants, and people will just see them for whatever, they're dressed as. And then, of course, he goes into this dark room here after shaving, and, he's saying here about the ambiance of the room, not that she's one to complain. And he starts talking about how he can actually do anything he wants to her. And then here we go. We have her dressed up in this, sexy outfit, right? She's strapped to the floor here. And she's just like, oh, God, let me guess. I'm supposed to be dressed as every cheerleader, prom queen, and circus acrobat, whoever turned you down for a date. And as I beg and whimper, you finally achieve some sort of tawdry sexual revenge. And Mr. Gaughan's like, well, so much for that plan. I get it. That's a dark joke, but, I think it worked. And he is back there. I guess he's laughing, too, when he ends up smashing the is and telling it to shut up, that he's, trying to think or whatever. And he's like, okay, so now where was I? We'll do plan 2. And Julie is just acting as cool as a cucumber here. She's just talking about how, he can kill her. She can get killed any day. She lives in a bad neighborhood. Anybody around that area can kill her at any time. And, but he's not scaring her. He's not a scary type. He's doing nothing to terrify her. She also discovers one of the Iz's teeth on the ground. Probably from when he smashed that creature up. And she's going to use it to cut the ropes that are locked around her neck. And this guy's like, trust me, you will fear me. And she's just like, I doubt it. You don't have a clue who I am, blah, blah, blah. And she just keeps him talking while she's trying to cut these restraints, okay? And he's, she's like, you don't know who I am. And he's like, I think I do. I've been stalking you. So I probably know everything there is to know about you. And then she starts, like, kind of tearing herself down. Like, I think she thinks that because he's some kind of stalker, he thinks that she's, like, a perfect woman. But she starts talking about how, she actually has a fat stomach and chaff marks where jeans cut in and stubbly underarms and things like that. I guess trying to make herself unappealing to him, which, I think it's a good idea. I think, like, her plan seems to be working here, okay? And then she comes up with this, the only reason that she's there is because he has a problem with women. And I just see here that this page is starting to come out of this book. He is like, of course I have a problem with women. Everyone has a problem with women because women taunt and tease because they're attractive, and then they punish you for being attractive. All right, so this guy is coming off like an incel. He starts going on about how she dresses. She's dressing for attention, and she's saying that she's a feminist, and that she does this and that and everything. I think he's trying to hit her with all these contradictions to somehow make her out to be the bad person for being, for looking the way she does or acting the way she does. And she's like, oh, so obviously this is my fault. You broke into my locked house and kidnapped me. This has nothing to do with the clothes I wear. This has to do with the fact that you're twisted as a corkscrew and looking to find someone, women, feminism, Paglia, me, to blame it on. Okay? She's, I don't know, she's pretty good at fighting back psychologically here. And she's, she's going on, again, she's just keeping them talking as she's cutting the restraints. But then we also start cutting over to Julie in the Jungle Queen, talking about the doll. And it's like, this doll's telling me things I don't want to hear, and if it doesn't shut up, I'm going to brush its head right off. If this doll doesn't shut up, I'm going to brush and brush and brush until I brush off its head, right? So, like, as that's going on, apparently this character, this doll, is Mr. Gone, because she had cut her restraints and she's getting tired of the things that he's saying, and now she's got this tooth to his neck, as if she's now going to cut his head off with it, right? And they are, pretty long teeth. I still think it'll be like an incredibly hard and long task in order to take his whole head off. But yeah, and then we cut back over to the, evil Julie, who had just combed the head off of that doll. And the head, drops, and we have blood now is like pouring down. As we go back into the dumpster here, and we see that the Izzes have been smashed all over the place. And we have the Maxx here stating that, so I awoke and slew, but Julie is still kidnapped, and the Jungle Queen is insane. I didn't protect either of them. I failed. I wish it was time for cheers, but it's not. It's time for vengeance. Man, I really don't remember when the last episode of Cheers was, but I believe that it took place sometime in the 90s, because I think there was like 11 seasons to that show, so I think it was still going on. But next, it says next month we have Jungle Flowers Grown in Blood. So again, we have another dark story here. We have this guy, Mr. Gone, who hates women. He's abusing them, kidnapping them, restraining them, psychologically abusing them, physically abusing them, raping them, causing them serious injury. All of that is going on. So Mr. Gone is he's a horrible, horrible enemy, horrible person here, right? But maybe we're seeing that the Maxx isn't that much better since he thought that he killed an innocent in order to get after Mr. Gone. So, we do have that. It also looks like Julie is connected to this Jungle Queen. Maybe the Jungle Queen is like the dark half of Julie. And then, Julie is this social worker in our world where she's trying to help all these people. And then over here in this other world, we have like the dark side of Julie who, is murdering little dolls and talking crazy and things like that. So that's it for the Maxx #2. We have some fan art. Something I really miss. That was one of my favorite things in Image, was like, they were like, let's show some appreciation for fans. They had like huge letter columns here that were pages and pages long. And they had all of this fan art from people. Seriously, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pages, letters pages, where the Marvel comic, we didn't get that. They save all the ads for the end. And I always found that to be weird again, that all of the ads are just for Image Comics. They put the Image titles in there. They're only promoting their own stuff. And I think it's simply because they just did not need extra revenue on any of these books. But I kind of feel that people who were advertising in comics would have paid top dollar to advertise in an Image comic, considering that they were outselling everybody else. So, yeah, to me, I don't know, that just makes sense. But I do appreciate that they would throw the ads into the back of the book here. And then next issue, we have, Maxx #3 here. So that was Maxx #2. Beautiful artwork. I love everything that's going on here. Here's the, Jungle Queen, Leopard Queen, whatever they called her in the first book. I'm not sure. But that was the Maxx #2. And again, we're still down a dark path here. I'm pretty sure number 3 is probably going to be dark as well. Guys, I want to thank you for watching. Seriously, I appreciate it. I finally hit 100 subscribers, so that was like a big momentous occasion for me. I personally celebrated, even though you guys didn't get to see it. Again, thank you. If you like this video, please hit like, because I'm a comic book artist who's currently working on a comic of my own named Ghost Girl, which should be out in the next coming months or so. If it's something that you think you might be interested in, please hit subscribe, so that way you can see any of the new videos that I have coming out, but also get any information about my comic as it comes out. Okay. So again, guys, I want to thank you guys, and until next time.